Welcome to the 2013 Recruiting Trends, where for the next 30 minutes you will learn about the new trends hot off the press. Sohan and I are with you today to share these insights. I'm a content strategist by day and like to say I'm a closet nerd by night. I have the lucky opportunity to work with the content and insights team at LinkedIn to bring you this amazing data. I'd like to introduce to you my partner in crime, Sohan.
Hey everybody, I'm Sohan Murthy, and I'm a research consultant here at LinkedIn, and I'm a data nerd by day and night, and basically every other time in between.
So here's what you can expect for the next 29, minutes, soon to be 28, the four key takeaways. The top 5 U.S. recruiting trends specific to the U.S. and what's top of mind and what you can expect upcoming for the next couple of years. The second is how the U.S. compares to the global average, understanding where we over-index and under-index on key areas. The third is key metrics so you can measure your company's performance and understand how you benchmark compared to your peers in the U.S. And I would say the fourth piece is, most importantly, what you can get away from this, what your next steps are that you can actually start today to really incorporate these trends into your strategy and make a difference. And just a little bit about LinkedIn Talent Solutions. We think the effective recruiting strategy requires 3 core elements. The first is engaging the best passive talent. The second is talent brand to attract talent. And the third is putting the right job to the right candidate. All these elements come together with the top 5 trends to help make your job easier. And now more on the top 5 trends.
A little bit of background of how we collected this information. We surveyed over 3,300 corporate talent acquisition leaders all around the world, representing 19 countries and regions. These folks are your peers all around the world. In the United States, there's 533 of them that we talked to. We tried as best as we could to balance out the respondents so that we had an equal number of people representing small, medium, and large businesses. And in general, these folks tend to have pretty high authority in terms of their ability and visibility into this budget spend in their organization. So as you can imagine, with 3,300 respondents and lots of questions around trends in the talent acquisition organization, we have a lot of data to parse through. And one time I actually caught Brianne staring at her computer screen for 3 hours straight without blinking. And the data kind of haunts my dreams to this day. So, but that's pretty normal actually, because, well, that's how I live. But seriously, we poured over all the data, and we think we can boil this down to 5 important trends that are shaping the future of recruiting. So, for the rest of the webcast, we'll be talking about these 5 trends. Number 1 being social professional networks as an increasing source of quality hires. Number 2 is employer branding as both a competitive threat and a competitive advantage. Number 3 is something that is very near and dear to my heart, which is using data to make better hiring and branding decisions. The 4th trend is companies and how they're investing in internal hiring. And the 5th and final trend is how companies are navigating the world of mobile recruiting that's using smartphones and the mobile web to recruit on the go. But first, I wanted to show you guys a little exercise to give you a sense of what are some of the questions that we asked your peers in the United States. We asked them to take this massive list of priorities. These are all typical talent acquisition activities and objectives that could be going on in your company right now. And we asked your peers in the United States to prioritize them and pick the top 5. So take a look and maybe even write down what's important to you based on this list. And what will happen in a second is I'll pop out the 5 most important things that your peers told us in this research. All right, got it written down? Well, it turns out these 5 most important things are all pillars in running an effective talent acquisition organization. Recruiting highly skilled talent, improving sourcing techniques, pipelining the talent, managing employer brand, and improving quality of hire. If we take this list and we organize it from top to bottom, what we'll see here is that overall, recruiting and sourcing highly skilled talent is extremely important in the United States. In fact, more so than anywhere else in the world. Following that, it's improving the quality of hire, pipelining talent, improving sourcing techniques, and of course, employer branding. And another big picture element here is looking at hiring volume and budgets over time. Your peers are telling us that, in general, hiring seems to be increasing just a little bit, with about 56% of your peers in this response pool telling us that they're going to be hiring more in 2013 versus 2012. So hiring seems to be ticking up just ever so slightly. However, budgets aren't increasing. If anything, they're decreasing ever so slightly. So leaders in the talent acquisition space need to be more strategic with their resources. With hiring ticking up and resources going down, it's a scarcity game, as I'm sure a lot of you are very aware of.
And now on to the number one trend. We are going to tell you what social professional networks and quality of hire have in common. So we asked you and your peers, where do you find top talent? Well, the secret's out. Here's the top 5 sources of quality hire, and we have trending data over the past 3 years. Employee referral programs, social professional networks, websites, internet job boards, and internal hires. But what I want to highlight here is the fastest growing source, social professional networks. It's important to look at this list to understand where do you invest today, where are you looking to invest tomorrow, and potentially where should you dial up or dial down in these key areas in order to be competitive and find that top talent. Some things are fads, trends that go in and out of style, but what we asked here is, what are the trends that are going to stay? What's top of mind for you and your competitors? Here are the top 5 longest-lasting trends. Finding better ways to source passive candidates, utilizing social and professional trends, strategic talent advisor, employer brand, and training recruiters and hiring managers. Again, what we want to highlight here is social professional networks is still on the list in number 2. It's number 1 on a global average and number 2 for the U.S. It's important to pay attention to these long-lasting trends because they're here to stay, and your competitors are focusing on them. And in talking about utilizing social and professional networks, recruiters probably, as we are speaking, are checking out LinkedIn or Sohan's LinkedIn profile.
Oh, geez.
And I know I did. I had to pull his picture for this webcast. And when I did, I found out his recent activity on a Tuesday afternoon, visualizing top NBA performers versus draft picks over the past 40 seasons. I did tell you Sohan is a data ninja. I'm really glad to have him on my team.
This is probably why I don't have any friends, but that's another discussion for another time.
Feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn just to spruce it up. Number 2, employer branding. Do you guys consider it a competitive threat or a competitive advantage? Well, we asked you, what keeps you up at night? What are you most worried your competitors are doing? Here's the top 3 list. Number 1 is investing in their employer brand. If you're most worried that your competitors are doing this, definitely important to think about what you're doing with an employer brand. And just to keep things interesting, we have a quick quiz here. What percentage of you believe employer brand has a significant impact on the ability to hire great talent? 85%. It's great to see the huge impact that you think it has. And so it bears the question how you're investing in employer brand. And thinking about employer brand, how do you share that your company is the most amazing company to work for? What are the key channels that you leverage? Again, we asked your peers, here's the top 5 channels to communicate employer brand. Company website, friends and family, online professional networks. And as you can see with online professional networks over the past year, it's increased 7% as a key way to talk about your employer brand. Key areas to think about how you share how amazing your company is to work at.
Now we get to move on to a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is how your peers are using data to make better hiring and branding decisions. So let's start with 3 areas, one that's pretty generic and the other 2 which I consider to be more specific. Think about your talent acquisition team and how you compare to your peers. Where do you think you fall in these areas? First one is utilizing data to make hiring decisions. How comfortable are you in this area? The second is something a little bit more tactical, which is regularly surveying new hires to understand your brand position. How comfortable are you, or how active are you in this facet? And the third is a little bit more advanced, and that's measuring your employer brand in a quantifiable way. Like, how active are you in doing this, or how comfortable are you in engaging in this activity? Well, it turns out we asked your peers to get a sense of who's doing what. And it turns out 22% of U.S. talent acquisition leaders say that they believe that their organization uses data well to make hiring decisions. Globally, it's about 23%. And in fact, your peers in India top the charts. Almost 52% of respondents in India said that they feel like they really use data well to make hiring decisions. Data is how you gain buy-in at the executive level. It's how every other business unit makes decisions, increasingly so, really more than ever now with access to information. And talent acquisition is no different. Now, utilizing data to make decisions doesn't mean you have to be a statistician or a research scientist. It's as simple as putting into place a goal that can be measured quantifiably and something that you can track over time to measure progress. And an example of that is the two topics that I mentioned earlier. When it comes to understanding your company's brand position, about 28% of your peers say that this is an activity that they engage in. And globally, it's higher. It's 34%. And when it comes to what I consider to be a little bit more advanced, which is measuring your employer brand in a quantifiable way, 30% of your peers in the United States say that you engage in this activity regularly. 33% globally. My colleagues, James Raybould and Will Hamlin, have put together an awesome presentation about simple things that you can do to leverage the data around you to make better hiring decisions. We'll provide a link later, but if you're really antsy to check it out, I think you can Google Moneyball for talent acquisition, and it should be one of the top hits. It's a video presentation from Talent Connect 2012, and it's just overall a great presentation if you're just antsy to learn more about simple things you can do to utilize data. The second topic that I want to talk about is hiring internally, or how we like to call it, how to stop talent from walking out the door. So we asked your peers, in kind of a separate exercise, we asked your peers to visualize what a best-in-class or a world-class talent acquisition organization looks like. As you can imagine, there's a lot of components that could fit into that. And we wanted to get a sense of what's the top 5 facets that make up a world-class talent acquisition organization. And interestingly enough, one of those capabilities is a structured internal hiring process and developing a supportive culture for internal hiring. Now, this is not something that's probably typically owned by talent acquisition exclusively, but your peers are seeing it as a competency that really the best excel at. So let's dig a little bit deeper and see who's investing in internal hiring. Turns out quite a lot of U.S. employers are investing in internal hiring. Over the past year, almost 40% of your peers told us in this research that they're increasing internal hiring volume over the last year. Only 4% are telling us that they're decreasing the volume of hiring internal candidates, which means overall 96% have a pretty material investment in internal hiring. So why would they do this? Well, as you can probably guess what I'm going to say next, we asked your peers. We wanted to get a sense of what they thought the advantages of internal hiring are, and asked us to rank their top 5 most important advantages. And what's interesting is number 1 and number 2 are all about retaining top talent and providing the people that you're with development opportunities. Achieving cost savings is something that's seen as pretty important, but it's not number 1 overall. It's really about keeping the best within your company walls and keeping them productive and successful. The final topic that I want to talk about, and the final trend actually for this presentation, is mobile recruiting. another way of thinking about this is basically how to tap the increasingly all-consuming world that lives inside of our smartphones. So how big is mobile? I mean, we keep hearing about this as a trend in terms of like, well, everybody's going to be on their phones, browsing the web, etc. Well, to give you some perspective, more people are logging into LinkedIn via their smartphones now more than ever. In fact, at any given moment, around 30% of our members are viewing LinkedIn via their smartphone, whether it be the app or the mobile web, via their iPhone or their Android device or their BlackBerry. But I wanted to make note that it's not just LinkedIn, and it's not even just browsing the web on your phone. It's really changing how we approach our lives from a cultural standpoint. So I wanted to give a brief visual, just to give you a sense of this. So what I'm showing you now is a scene from the Vatican in 2005, and what this is for is when Pope Benedict was elected. This is a view of the crowd. Lots of happy, smiling faces. Quite a few people, well, just a handful of people have, like cameras, and in fact, there's this one guy that has a camcorder, which I almost forgot exactly.
Do you even know what that is, Sohan?
I don't even know anymore what a camcorder is. I had to look it up on Wikipedia. And overall, just a very happy scene, but very few electronic devices. The next picture that I'm going to show you is a scene from the exact same crowd for the exact same event, but in 2013. In this case, it's the Vatican again, and for the election of Pope Francis. And the change is remarkable. Literally every single person in the crowd has some sort of smartphone device. And it looks like camcorder guy has been replaced by iPad video guy, which I don't know if you've noticed those in crowds. I don't know how they do it, but I won't ask any questions. So keeping in mind that visual in terms of how ubiquitous these devices have become, in a world where people are increasingly using the web on their phone, what we think mobile recruiting means is reaching talent where they are by making job opportunities easily accessible on these mobile devices. And again, in a world where people are increasingly using the web on their phones and doing more and more things via their phone versus the desktop, mobile recruiting means being able to do your job on the go by giving you access to all the tools without being tethered to a desktop. So let's take a look and see who amongst your peers feels like they're pretty adequately invested in mobile. Well, given how ubiquitous these devices are become, it's a little bit interesting to see that most organizations don't really feel like they're investing enough. In fact, only 13% of organizations globally feel like they have adequately invested in mobile recruiting. 87% don't feel very strongly about their investment in mobile recruiting. And of those 13% that say that they're adequately invested in mobile recruiting, nearly 59%, nearly 60% of them are telling us that they see candidates use the mobile web to learn about job opportunities at your company, whether it be browsing for job posts on their phone or viewing your career site on their phone. And 52% of these folks that feel like they're adequately invested in mobile say that they're even seeing candidates apply via the phone. Compare that to the other 87% that aren't invested adequately in mobile, and the numbers are a lot smaller. Only 14% are saying that they see candidates learn about opportunities on the phone, and only 11% are saying that they see candidates use the mobile web to apply.
With a few minutes left, we of course have a couple more interesting insights and also to share with you next steps about how you can take these trends into your organization. So we asked everyone on the survey to complete the sentence, talent acquisition is. Definitely very inspiring to review all those responses that we got, and as well as the spelling mistakes, but good thing for spell check so we can make sure that they were all consistent. But as you can see from this word cloud here, some of the key words that definitely pop out in terms of the most words used: success, critical, key, future, right? It really says and demonstrates how vital talent acquisition is to each of you and how important it is and how you're looking towards the future and planning for it, which is why some of these key trends are so important for you. And then wondering, how do you compare to your U.S. peers? In the full report that we're going to provide within the next 24 hours, you'll be able to see key statistics, both U.S. and globally, on employer brand, passive talent, hiring, budget, and volume. For instance, you can find out what the U.S. increase of 27% in hiring contractors and interim and temporary professionals. And now, what you can start doing today, and taking this half an hour that you've invested with us and make a difference in your organization. The first is quality of hires. Ensure that you're adequately invested in social and professional networks for the long run. This isn't a fad that's going to go away tomorrow. Ensure your employees know and can utilize their professional networks to help promote the company. Second, employer brand. Time to put your marketing hat on. Determine what your most effective channels are to truly promote your employer brand, and dial down on those that are less effective to truly make a smart, strong, and remarkable employer brand. Data, something Soham loves to talk about, but maybe might not be as comfortable for you. As we can see, U.S. runs slightly below the global average, and we have a lot to learn from India. But know what data that you have in your back pocket today. Understand how you can use it, and ask yourself what additional data will be helpful for you and how you can use that data. Some of my lessons learned is, in working with data, is that it's iterative in nature. I put together an initial dashboard for my peers and executives. Some of those metrics changed over time as I was able to get more information and understand what was more important to folks, and also identifying what success looks like and being able to tie metrics to that. And I think, as Soham mentioned, highlighting what's quantitative and what's qualitative. How can you survey new hires to understand what their brand perception is? Very insightful across the board. Fourth, internal hiring. Stopping that top talent from walking out the door. No, this role and responsibilities might not sit 100% within your organization, but definitely important to team up with, whether it's talent management or HR, to truly understand how you can find top opportunities for your top talent within the organization and keep it within your walls instead of letting them go. Understand what data that you have available to help inform these decisions. Understand why people are leaving, how you can keep them, how they're leveraging the career website and other channels to keep this internal talent in-house. And last but definitely not least, mobile recruiting. This might be something that was on the list for next year or the year after, but I think it's important to start now. The timeline and the strategy for mobile recruiting takes longer than other initiatives potentially on your plate. One of the key resources to potentially tap into is thinking about your marketing organization. They've probably already thought about this, potentially invested in it, and probably might have a bigger budget maybe they can share with you, and understanding what they've got right and what the lessons they've learned throughout the process that you can help leverage. Now we want to turn it over to any questions that you have. Just a reminder to treat questions to #recruitingtrends. As we mentioned, presentation and recording will be sent within the next 24 hours. If you enjoyed webcasts, we have many others, so feel free to register at the link here for upcoming webcasts. And because this is a global study across 18 different countries, we have coming in mid-July reports for all the different regions. This will be important as you look at global recruiting, understanding what your peers in other countries, what's top of mind for them, and what the competitive trends are. Also, if you are recruiting in other countries, very insightful to learn these top-of-mind trends. We also ask that you complete the webcast survey to let us know what you think so we can improve on future webcasts. Just giving some time to let the questions roll in. One of the first questions that we have is, what practical things can we do to invest in mobile recruiting?
Well, I mean, as I see it, is the simple thing is just taking a look at how people are just viewing your company's brand overall on the web, whether it be desktop or web, or desktop or mobile, and seeing, that's pretty simple actually, just taking those exact same desktop websites where you might have, your career page, your job post, viewing it on your mobile device, and just taking your perspective from the candidate and seeing, you know, how pleasant of a, you know, experience is this. And if it's something that's pretty frustrating or there's a lot of friction in order to like learn more about your company, then that could be an area of improvement. And like Rhiannon mentioned, if you know somebody in your organization is already running the resources required to keep that site up and keep it mobile optimized, then you know the career site and available jobs should be, you know, as high of a priority as really anything else.
Thanks, Sohan. Another question that we got about internal hiring is what information would be helpful to share internally and gain that buy-in from executives. It sounds like especially because there's some, you know, a cultural change in that, you know, potentially getting top employee from one manager to another can kind of potentially establish a rift in the ranks. So some key points about this would be to survey your employees, understand how they find out about jobs internally. Is it the company website? Is it the internal website? Is it something that we refer to as coffee and a handshake? Is it over the water cooler that they find out? And being able to understand where they find out about these opportunities is very important to know where folks are going and how you can improve some of the channels that you think are working but potentially aren't. Also with exit interviews, sometimes that information is lost, we see, and that kept in terms of one department, and I think being able to share that information, especially to the talent acquisition folks about why folks are leaving, because sometimes you understand it's because they want a more challenging position somewhere else, and so being able to understand that and find those positions internally will be key, and it's not due to some of the misnomers that we potentially hear about. So another question that we got here is, does anyone have hiring managers that actually know how to leverage LinkedIn and are willing to do it? Thanks, Terry, for that question. One of the things that I've seen is having that strong relationship with hiring managers, and I think one of the key features that we've seen is being able to understand the talent pool. We joke that the purple squirrel, that the hiring manager asks for this non-existent perfect candidate. And by walking them through LinkedIn and showing some of the features and the tools, it can really educate them on what that talent pool looks like and set those expectations more realistically about what they should look for. Also, coming soon, there will be a hiring manager tip sheet. So this is something you can share with your hiring managers about LinkedIn and, you know, how to work better with them to help improve that process, because I know it's always a challenging limbo. And it looks like that's it for questions, but thank you so much for everyone joining us. Definitely stay tuned for more information, and please keep in touch with us. Subscribe to our blog. We also have SlideShare, Twitter, YouTube. Check out our website for additional case studies and insights driven by Sohan. And feel free to follow us on LinkedIn for HR-specific insights. Thanks again for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.